Sometimes it's said a Brahmin is honest. And so one definition of honesty that Prabhupada's giving here, probably the most important definition, is that there's no duplicity in his life. He's not pretending to be a Brahmin in public, and privately he's who knows what. So Bali Maharaj did the right thing. He surrendered, like you say, I'm a devotee, so then act like a devotee. Don't sometimes act like a non-devotee and call yourself a devotee. That's not being honest. That's being pretentious. Pretentious comes from the word pretend. So pretending to be something I'm not. So that's the idea. If we're Brahmins, then 24/7 we should be Brahmins. Not in private, we're something else. In public, we're Brahmins. It's not right. Okay. Now, here are 10 qualities of a Brahmin from Mahabharata. Dharmash cha satyam cha dhamas tapas cha amat sharyam vrish titikshana suya titikshana suya yagyas cha dhanam cha dhriti shrutam cha pratani bhai dvadasa pramanasya. Okay, Brahmins. We read today in the Bhagavatam, I think it's 1-20. We had a class this morning. It said all devotees are Brahmins. So there's no way around this, even if you don't feel you're a Brahmin, because all devotees are actually better than Brahmins. So we're qualified Brahminically. So these qualities are for all of us to develop. Shama, peacefulness; Dhamma, self-control; Tapa, austerity; Socham, purity; Shantir, tolerance; Arjavam, honesty; Jnanam, knowledge; Vijnanam, wisdom, which means applied knowledge; and Ashtikam, which is religiosity. Oh, excuse me. I was reading Bhagavad Gita. What we just read. A Brahmin must be perfectly religious. He must be truthful. He must be able to control his senses. He must execute severe austerities. He must be detached, humble, and tolerant. He must not envy anyone, and he must be expert in performing sacrifices and giving whatever he has in charity. He must be fixed in devotional service and expert in the knowledge of the Vedas. These are the 12 qualifications of a Brahmana. And then what I just read from you, or from Bhagavad Gita, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 qualifications. Similar qualifications. You see this idea of being simple, being austere, being peaceful, being knowledgeable, sense control. So these are all qualities which are necessary for our devotional service. Now, here's another list. This is from Mukta Hala Tika, which I'm not sure what this is. I believe this is from a purport. Shamo, Dhammas, Tapo, Socham, Shantir, Arjavam, Viraktaya. Sounds familiar to Bhagavad Gita. Jnanam, Vijnanam, Santosha, Satyas, Tike, Dva, Sadguna. So, these are the qualities listed in this verse. Mental equilibrium, which is also the same as Shama, given in Bhagavad Gita. Sense control, which is Dhamma. Samadhamma, Tapo, austerity. Socham, cleanliness. Tolerance, again, Arjavam. Shantir. Samodhamma, Tapo, Socham, Shantir, tolerance. So those are same. But then simplicity, that's a new one. Detachment. Theoretical and practical knowledge are similar, are the same. satisfaction, truthfulness, firm faith in the Vedas. So here we get some added qualities: simplicity, detachment, satisfaction. Satisfaction is very important for a Brahmin. You may know the story of Vamanadev. So Vamanadev came and begged 3 steps from Bali. Bali said, "Why don't you take more?" And so Vamanadev was playing the part of a Brahmin, so he said, 3 steps is enough for me. Keep it simple, like they say. The KISS formula, keep it simple, stupid. So Vamana is portraying a Brahmin. He comes as a Brahmin boy, and so he says, no, as a Brahmin, 3 steps is enough. That's enough. I don't need more than that. Of course, it was a trick. He was going to take 3 steps to cover the universe. But the point is, as a Brahmin, he's making the point that 3 steps is enough. And I should be satisfied with whatever I have. In our society, that's really difficult because so many people have more than we have. And we're told that to be happy we need to have more. And it's really difficult to be satisfied with less unless you have that samskara, or that faith, or that Brahminical nature. Brahminical nature is whatever Krishna sends you, you're satisfied. It doesn't mean you don't work. You work as best you can, and whatever you get from that, you're satisfied. And if you're meant to get more, Krishna will give it to you, or he'll give you the intelligence how to get more. And he'll provide facility how to get more. But whatever you get, you're satisfied, you accept that's your karma. But that quality of simplicity, I think it's important for everybody to have that. Because people are so frustrated because they're so deeply programmed in a way that living simply is difficult. It's considered to be a failure. We don't see it as a failure. We see it as an austerity. It's glorious, but people see it as a failure. Simplicity. Okay. I think I told you that basically most people, at least Americans, are living with about 80% more things than they actually need to live. And people who get rid of things, excessive things in their homes, they always say that they feel lighter, they feel happier, they feel more clear, they just feel better. So having things, although it's hyped to be the way to be happier, in many cases detachment is a much higher form of happiness. You live with less. And Krishna, of course, is glorified as being renounced. That's one of his opulences. So it's a decoration. The other had simplicity. Simplicity. Yes. Then Prabhupada said, I don't know if you're aware of this, Prabhupada said, in Vedic times, wealthy people did not build big homes for themselves. They built big temples. Isn't that interesting? So they understood if Krishna sends wealth, that's meant for his service. And they live simple. It's a noisy refrigerator. And the problem is I have to edit all these sounds out. Anyway. Refrigerators are not good to sit next to because the motors, they emit unhealthy electromagnetic frequency. Did you know that? Anyway, so the other one so we have simplicity, detachment. We were speaking this morning about detachment, and detachment comes in 2 ways. One is consciously you detach because you know something's bad for you, and the second way, which is the permanent way and the better way, which takes more time, is you detach naturally because you have something that's better for you. But in this world, all of us, whether we're Brahmins or not, have to have a certain level of detachment. Otherwise, too much attachment will cause us to be on a roller coaster in our life, because everything's not going to go exactly the way we want it. And even if it does, somehow or other, at some point, it's probably going to get knocked around. So detachment is more of an accepting attitude, that this is the way things are going, and I accept it. Detachment also comes from not putting ourselves in the center. So I have to detach from what I like, because Krishna likes it and it's for him. It's not for me. So, and detachment is just, in general, is required to traverse the path of Krishna consciousness in the material world, because there's so many obstacles. And if you're not detached, these obstacles are going to pull you in. So detachment is very important. And you can be much happier if you're detached. Things will bother you less. Sometimes, our lives, for us, our lives seem like so significant, and all our problems seem so significant, doesn't it? We're all worried about whatever we're worried about. And then you just look at a picture of the universe, and within the universe, the Earth planet is just a speck, and you realize, actually, your problems are not really that important. And nobody really cares but you, and nobody really even knows but you. And next week, that big problem you're having probably will go away, or next year you won't even remember what it is. So detachment helps us become more objective. And if we're not sufficiently detached, we get very much pushed around by things that happen to us, either things that happen because of the way people treat us, or things that happen just that happen. And detached people can, as we say in America, go with the punches. Get punched, but go with it. Move your head a little, and just take it and move with it. So that's one of the values of detachment, just on the practical level. And of course, on the spiritual level, how are you going to become attached to Krishna if you're attached to something other than Krishna? So just like in Bhagavatam, you find in Bhagavatam it gives us the plight of a materialistic man, and it takes us to the end of his life. And in the end of his life, when he's dying, as happens to most people, Bhagavatam describes all his attachments are coming out, and his attachments come out in the form of family, his wife and relatives and children and so on. And so Prabhupada says in the Gita, we should be a little bit detached from these things. Otherwise, when we die, we're going to be thinking about what we're most attached to. And hopefully it's Krishna. But if it's not, whatever it is, we're going to be thinking about him. So detachment is also, its safeguards are, it's like our heart. Our heart is sensitive. We can become attached to many things very easily. You go shopping and you can get attached to something you see in the store. You had no intention to buy it, right? And then you end up buying it because that time you were in the store, you got attached to it. You spend some time with someone, you can get very attached to them. You buy something that's a really good product or expertly made, you become attached to it. So attachment is natural and happens. So Bhagavatam says, become attached to devotees. That's good attachment. And really, how will we become detached from anything unless we're attached to something transcendental? So Mahatsevam Dwaram Ahorpi Muktes. Become attached to the Mahatmas, and then you'll be liberated. Kapila Dev tells his mother, become that same attachment you have for anything in this world. Use that to become attached to devotees. That's good. But material attachment, it always ends up in pain. And Brahmins, they're detached because they don't think about what they like and what they want. They think about how they can serve, how they can help other people. That's their detachment. It's detachment from personal sense gratification. So, devotee means someone who's thinking about the welfare of others and how Can you think about the welfare of others if you're very attached to your own welfare, your own comfort, your own gratification, your own success and material expansion? You can't. Because we see that if you want to advance materially, it basically takes up all your time. You're going to work, you're going to find the best job possible, you're going to buy a home and car and so forth, and you're just basically going to be working most of your life to pay for all of that. That's just a reality. So if there's not sufficient detachment, then we work really hard, isn't it? To pay for whatever it is we have that is supposed to bring us happiness. So detachment and simplicity, they work well. It works well with tolerance because you're tolerating, sometimes you have to tolerate things you're attached to and stay detached by tolerating the attachment and not following through on what you're attached to. Not following through is the wrong word, but you know what I mean. Not cultivating the attachment. Okay, so I wanted to read something from Bhagavatam about a little more about Brahmins. And this is from the first canto, second chapter, text 21. No, it's text 20. And this verse describes what happens when you come to Vishuddhasattva, when you transcend the mode of goodness. Thus established in the mode of unalloyed goodness, the man whose mind has been enlivened by contact with devotional service to the Lord gains positive scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in the stage of liberation from all material association. So this verse is describing what happens when you get out of the three modes of nature. Three modes means Maya. When we say, get out of Maya, Prabhu, you're in Maya. Really what we're saying is, get out of the three modes of nature, right? Or maybe you could translate it, at least get out of passion and ignorance. There's not much Maya in goodness. And in many ways, goodness and Krishna consciousness are the same. So, we'll read the purport. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that out of many thousands of ordinary men, one fortunate man endeavors for perfection in this life. Mostly, men are conducted by the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus they are engaged always in lust, hankerings, ignorance, and sleep. If you were successful, today is Sunday. So, well, in India it's Saturday night. Today is Sunday morning in America. And if you are going to have a successful Sunday by material standards, that means you'll sleep a lot. Of course, you're from the mode of passion, you won't want to sleep a lot, you want to go out windsurfing or skiing or whatever. Some sports and actions. Maybe you do both. Sleep a lot and then go out and do something fun. So, out of many such, here comes something heavy, man-like animals. So Prabhupada is defining a man-like animal as one who's in the mode of passion and ignorance, which basically kind of covers most of the population in Kali Yuga. So that's a heavy thing to say. But he's saying it on the basis of action. It's not a judgment that I think you're like an animal, because I don't like the way you look or I don't like what you do, but judging on the basis of the modes of nature. And so therefore we can conclude that Prabhupada saying human life means living in goodness. And if you're living in passion and ignorance, that's really not human life. That's a heavy thing to say, but that's what Prabhupada is saying, and we accept that. Out of many such man-like animals, there's actually a man who knows the responsibility of human life and thus tries to make life perfect by following the prescribed duties. So you have to understand what Prabhupada's saying here. He's saying, okay, these are man-like animals. Then in the next sentence, he's elaborating on what a human being does, and he says prescribed duties. Prescribed duties come from Shastra. So basically he's saying, if you want to be considered a human being, you follow Shastra. And if you don't want to be considered a human being, just live in passion and ignorance. And out of many thousands of such persons who have thus attained success in human life, one may know one, not out of, saying, out of many thousands, one out of many thousands may know scientifically about the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita 1855, it is also said that scientific knowledge of Krishna is understood only by the process of devotional service. So what Prabhupada is saying is if you're in passion and ignorance, you can't understand Krishna. And in the Gita, Krishna explains religion in different modes of nature, basically saying it's either backwards, everything you think is right is wrong, everything you think is wrong is right, or it's just filtered through very low modes of nature, and it comes out in terms of hate, as we see, hate, arrogance, pride, or ghost worship, spirit worship, not even God worship, just so-called mystical stuff, which is really, like satanic worship in many cases. The very same thing is confirmed herein in the above words. No ordinary man, or even one who has attained success in human life, can know scientifically or perfectly the personality of Godhead. So, the Vedas offer a description of God. You don't find that in other scriptures, or not much. And if you're in the modes of nature, you're not going to figure it out. You'll get some idea. But just like many people believe God is old, because he is old. I mean, he's the original person. That makes him old. So according to material estimation, if he's old, he should look old. So some people will imagine God, or paint God, or draw pictures of God as old, very old. You know that joke? There's an art class, students about 8 years old, and one girl's drawing a picture, and the teacher says, "What are you drawing?" "Picture of him." She says, I'm drawing a picture of God." And the teacher says, "But how can you do that? Because nobody knows what God looks like." And the student says, "Well, they will in a minute." So we can say the same thing. And so the teacher is representing the ordinary man. He said, well, we think nobody knows what God looks like. And our scripture is so interesting. It says, Yam Shama Sundaram Achinta Guna Sarupam Govindamari Pusham Tamaham Jami. You see, not only do we know what God looks like because it's described, but when Premanjana, you have love, the salve of love on your eyes, Premanjana Chudita Bhakti Vilochanena. When you have that, you can actually see Krishna. So this isn't even theory. This is like the devotee is seeing Krishna. And the point Prabhupada's making is that the only way anyone can see and understand Krishna is if they're transcendental to the modes of nature. Because if you try to see Krishna through the modes, then you'll get God in the mode of goodness, you'll get God in the mode of passion, or you'll get God in the mode of ignorance. So, people have many ideas of God filtered through their modes of nature. Of course, most people are in passion when they think about God, so God is the order supplier. What is God? He's the Father. He's the one who gives you everything. Because you're in passion, that's what you want. Goodness is more Brahman. God is everything, peace, love, tranquility. Of course, ignorance is more, I'm God, or I don't like your God, so I shoot you. That's unfortunate. But the transcendental nature of God can only be understood and seen by someone who is transcendental. Otherwise, you're seeing God through the filter of the mode you're in, and you will argue and die for that version. And so this verse follows the verse about transcending the modes of nature, and then it takes it one step further. I mean, coming to goodness, this takes it to transcending, and said this is the platform where you actually now understand Krishna. He's beyond the modes of nature. As soon as one understands that he has nothing to do with matter, he at once seizes his material hankerings and becomes enlivened as a spiritual being. This attainment of success is possible when one is above the modes of passion and ignorance, or, in other words, when one is actually a Brahmana by qualification. A Brahmana is the symbol of sattva guna, or the mode of goodness. So we mentioned that yesterday. Being a Brahmin means being situated in goodness. Now, this morning in class, we talked about something which is very interesting, so I will I will move on to this topic. I may not finish this purport in this class, but this is interesting. We told the story of, I didn't record the class. Well, someone recorded it, so I'll get it. But I'll tell you here. When Prabhupada initiated Bhakti True Swami, very soon after he came, he became a sannyasi, like maybe within a year or 6 months. So that kind of shocked devotees. So they're asking Prabhupada, isn't it dangerous that you give him sannyas so soon? He might fall down, or what if he falls down? And Prabhupada said, and if he falls down, he's situated in sattva gun. So if he falls down, he'll fall down into sattva gun. So then we have to think, well, what mode will we fall down into if we fall down? So I was giving the example that if you like rap music and then you become a devotee, then you get into kirtan, you get into bhajan, you refine your taste. In many ways, not just music, in many ways. But if you fall down again, does it mean that once you fall down, you'll like Beethoven, although you didn't like him before? Or will you like rap music? So often, the unfortunate answer is you will like rap music. And so then, you'll question that I was engaged in devotional service for so many years, and I was not influenced by the desire for rap or any of the activities of the lower modes of nature, at least not much, and now I've fallen down and I am. So what happened? Did I make no progress? Well, you did make spiritual advancement. Krishna says that's never lost, but one thing we could say is you didn't make much progress in cultivating higher modes of nature. You did cultivate service, but somehow, interestingly enough, you didn't cultivate goodness. So when you fell down, you tended to fall back into the conditioning that you had before you were a devotee. So I think we're all aware of this, and it poses an interesting dilemma and an interesting question. That, am I not making advancement? And you are making advancement spiritually, but in your advancement in Krishna consciousness, you failed to cultivate goodness. So therefore, when you fall, you're falling back into passion and falling back into all the same desires you had before, even though it doesn't, in a sense, academically or theoretically, seem to make sense, because you should be becoming purified. And if you're becoming purified and transcending, certainly you would not fall back into passion or ignorance. But those samskaras are deeply ingrained. So often we fall back because we neglect to cultivate the qualities of goodness. So many devotees have noted this, that within our society sometimes devotees are engaged in actions which are not proper, not even moral. And so we question, how is that? The devotee, he chants his rounds, he attends the morning program, he reads Prabhupada's books. How could he do something like this? Or how could she do something? Usually it's he that does the bad things. No offense, guys, but it's just true. So then the question is, well, how? How could you do that? And many devotees have posed a theory that we come affected by the lower modes of nature. We don't have any goodness or very little. We engage in devotional service. We don't cultivate goodness. We just cultivate transcendence. So there's a gap in our life. We went from ignorance to goodness or passion to goodness. And that's the same way we went up, is the same way we come down. We missed goodness on the way up, and so when we come down, we also miss it on the way down. There's no net for goodness because we didn't cultivate it. So here in these classes, we're talking about what it means to cultivate goodness. And now, of course, Prabhupada will say, if you're a Vaishnava, you have the qualities of a Brahmin, just by being a Vaishnava. And that's true, if you're actually a Vaishnava. But then you have to ask yourself, well, do I have these qualities? And if you don't, then there needs to be some focus on it. Goodness is a foundation, is the best foundation for elevating yourself in Krishna consciousness. Or like we sometimes say, first become a human being, then become a devotee. If we're trying to be devotees from a non-human platform, it doesn't work well. So Prabhupada gave us the 4 regulative principles. That's a human platform. We're learning here that Brahminical qualities are actually qualities of human beings. It sounds weird to say, well, I didn't know what it meant to be a human being until I became a devotee, and people could take that as an offensive statement, meaning you also, or if you don't take the devotional service, then you're not a human being. And I wouldn't recommend telling people that directly, at least not if you don't know karate. So, but it's true. Prabhupada and Shastra is teaching us how to be a human being. And if we're not human beings, it's difficult to cultivate Krishna consciousness. And sometimes we see devotees' behavior, which it's not at all indicative of a sadhu, or it's not indicative of what we understand would be the activities of a devotee. And so that means we're becoming influenced by these lower modes of nature, and we haven't cultivated enough sattva guna in our life. Sometimes you'll find devotees, even they're advanced, but their room looks like a tornado hit it. It's just disorganized. It's not clean. They're not organized. They're not clean. So these are just lingering samskars that are effects of lower modes of nature. So we don't want to live that way. And so if we cultivate more goodness, then if we fall down, we'll fall down into goodness, which is pretty good, actually. If you fall into goodness, you don't have to worry so much about falling. You'll fall into it's hard to fall down into goodness, because when you fall down, you're still following the regular principles. Which is kind of nice, isn't it? To be in goodness. Yeah, I just fell down. What did you fall down into? Well, I went for a long walk in the forest today. I was in total maya, just appreciating the trees. Well, did you do anything sinful? No, I was kind of seeing Krishna in nature, and just had some carrot juice. That's all I had today. Yeah, so that's what you fall down into that. It's not bad, is it? Hare Krishna. So, in my life as a devotee, at one point I became really almost frightened, but very concerned. I said, but I've been a devotee a long time, but I still see there's so little sometimes goodness, that there's so much more passion and ignorance. So what's going on here? Why? And I realized there's a lot that I neglected to cultivate. A lot of anarthas I allowed to linger on, which are effects of passion and ignorance. And so we really need to work on that. And I think we'll be better as a society that's more sattvic. I think our relationships will be better if we're more sattvic. A lot of this, I'm right, you're wrong, it's coming from passion. You've offended me, that's coming from passion. Or ignorance. Understanding, sympathy, that's more compassion, kindness, that's more goodness. So obviously we need these things. And We can't wait for them to develop before we act on them. We have to act on them now. Right? So this phone is interesting. It likes to adjust lights. It keeps adjusting the light. Maybe I'm gonna go. I'm gonna look at you this way. Get more light, maybe. Of course, that light is on my head. Can you turn that light off? Maybe we'll get natural light.
Yes. It's okay.
Wow, no. Actually, the light's coming from the window. Wow. This is great. We thought it was that light. Wow. No, it's coming from here.
Yes.
There.
Okay. This is okay?
We'll see. I'm trying to get the perfect light. I don't know if it's possible. Better on. No, turn that light off. Wow, no, it's the window. The window's giving. Anyway, no, it's my effulgence. You can turn. Yeah, I can't get rid of my effulgence. No, this is not a good. We'll just go back to here again. Yeah, we'll just deal with this. Yeah, whatever. Nothing's perfect. Yeah. It's okay. It's not going on television. Not yet anyway. Okay. The Brahminical stage is the highest stage of human life because of its good quality.